Hello?
Hello, can you hear me?
I can't hear you.
What about now? Can you hear me?
Hello, Kristen. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you?
Yes. Yeah, I can hear you now that I put my headphones on. Can you see the welcome slide okay?
Yes. Carla, is Surya presenting today or Tieneke?
Good question. I had Surya.
He's on with Tieneke there, but they're on as panelists, not so can we promote Tieneke to
yeah, because I had Surya was sent the invitation, but they've signed in with Tieneke. Okay.
Yeah. Is that right, Tieneke? I think so.
I'm gonna have to stop the meeting, I think, and go back. Can Surya access his invitation? Because that would be the easiest way of doing it through him. Otherwise, I'm going to have to stop the presentation because there's a whole bunch of people already joined the meeting.
Hang on 2 seconds. Oh yeah, they'll try. Thanks, guys.
Let me see. Yeah, I don't know if I can.
There we go. For those who have just joined us, we're just waiting for Surya and Tieneke to just jump in on another login. So we shouldn't be too far off, and we can kick off once they've logged back in. Hello. We can see you guys on Surya's login.
Hi, can you hear us?
We certainly can. Excellent.
Oh, apologies for the little bit of hiccups with the login issues.
Excellent. Okay, I might kick things off. We've got a bit of a brief intro, everyone. So got a small group today, but that's good. That's good. That's okay. Welcome everybody to our second edition webinar series, which is being held in March, April this year. This is based off a newsletter, which you probably have all seen and maybe tuned into other webinars series earlier this month. CRCNA's mission is to boost the economy and wellbeing of communities in Northern Australia. Northern Australia is a vast area north of the Tropic of Capricorn, covering Western Australia, Northern Territory and Queensland. We achieve this through co-investing in industry-led research projects in agriculture, food, health service delivery and traditional owner-led businesses in these fields. As part of this program, CRCNA has co-invested with GRDC and CRDC in 5 cropping projects looking to bring broadacre cropping diversification options to either pastoral or sugarcane dominated agricultural regions. These projects are all around halfway through their 3-year life cycle and each have taken a different approach to investigating the introduction of a cropping system to these existing grazing operations or agronomic potentials of new crops and varieties. Each Wednesday over a 6 weeks period, we'll be bringing 30-minute webinars from one of each of these 5 projects and a final 6th webinar where we have collaborating farmers and they'll provide their perspective. During these webinars, please use the chat function to highlight any technical issues, which I'll endeavour to help you resolve. Otherwise, Q&A function down the bottom is where you can ask questions of the presenter and we'll address these at the end of the presentation. Without further ado, let me introduce our 5th project, Spicing Up the North, which is led by Dr Surya Bhattarai and Tieneke Trotter from the CQ University. Are you guys right to share your screen with your presentation, Tieneke and Surya?
Yes, thank you. We're just opening that one up now. We seem to also be having a slight glitch with our camera, so apologies that that we.
It's okay. Once you put your presentation up, we'll be concentrating on that anyway.
Excellent. Can't share that. I am sharing screen now. And there we go. Oh, I've shared the wrong screen. This one. There we go. Hopefully you guys have a clean view of that. Is that right now? You can see.
Perfect.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Right.
Well, thank you for having us this morning. My name's Tieneke Trotter and this is
Surya
Bhattarai. And Surya is going to take the first part of this presentation and I'll talk to you about some of the results that we found towards the end.
Okay, guys. We're just putting some brief on how far we are in our journey through the project, the Spicing Northern Australia, that is funded by CRCNA with the industry partner Agriventis on board, providing us the seed materials. Tieneke and myself, we have put it together, but it really comes from the hard work of all our partners. They are collaborating with us in this SPICE project. Our partners includes the DPIR entry very intensively and our the partners in Northern Australia like the TRAP services and the BIFMAC, as well as our growers partners in Central Queensland, Peter Foxwell and Ian Kennedy. So basically it is the hard work of our team in Spices, but we're presenting on behalf of our team this morning. So I am aware of the time constraints that we have. We are very limited by the time, and then we have, I believe, a lot of story to share with all of you. Therefore, I would like to be very brief so that we can talk about what is really happening in the ground and what we saw last year in our small plot trials. The spices is really the new initiative in Australia in terms of its R&D. Although we are a good consumer of it, our research initiations in Australia is pretty new for spices. It's a lucrative market to our industries because it's a 30 billion industries worldwide with a very attractive growth every year. So it holds about 5.2% annual growth. Therefore, the industry around spices, they are keen, bit interested to see if there is an opportunity for Australian industries and growers to tap into that emerging market. The Australia is a reasonably small consumer. We have a domestic values of about 500 million import on different spices, but definitely the rapidly growing multicultural Australia has appetite for homegrown spices. Therefore, it makes the case more stronger to have our own the best for spice production here in Australia. The Northern Australian climate really is promising for a production of these spices, not only from the climate point of view, but also our existing cropping systems dominated with the sugarcane, cotton, and others are really looking for alternative crops to fit into the rotation. And because there are large choices under spice categories, perhaps there is an opportunity to really integrate those new crops into the existing dominating cropping patterns up in Northern Australia. Our trials with the funding support from CRCNS are scattered over 6 different locations in Northern Australia, starting right south in Billowella, Rockhampton, Eyre, Tully, and 2 locations, Katherine and Darwin in Northern Australia. And we do have the stage 2 verification trial being collaborated with the Department of Western Australia, where there are some ongoing trials at the moment. So basically the primary activities are in 2 states, but the verification trial over 3 states. So the presentation today, we will give you a very quick snapshot of the what we call initial evaluation of 5 spices crop on the on-farm participatory trials that was conducted in 2019 and 20. And then we will also give you a brief of the black sesame trials, how it is progressing through the earlier initial evaluation to the verification trial now, and then the yield performance of those 5 species over the summer and the winter. So I would like to hand over from here to Tieneke to give the brief of the individual crop report. And we will have a discussion session. We are very happy not to just to present to you what we have done, but we are very keen to hear from you. So we would like to really allocate some time at the end to hear from you, your feedback on this presentation or anything in general about the spices. So I'll pass on to Tieneke to you now.
Thank you. So I'll just spend a little bit more time on this slide here, just from a background perspective, just before we jump in and show you some of the results. As Surya said, we did last year, 2019 to 2020 over summer, and then 2020 into winter, we did the evaluation in small plot trials, which were all hand planted and hand harvested, to look at whether or not any of these crops grew well across those 6 geographic locations. We looked at black sesame, fennel, Kalonji, Cumin, and Kalashiri, and we do have some initial results from that, and those initial results directed what we are going to be moving forward with in verification this coming year. So the black sesame crop over the summer of 2019 and 2020 did perform quite well. I will show you those results in a minute. We had a couple of standout lines that we have used and taken on to verification. Those crops are in the ground at the moment across 12 farms, including Western Australia as an additional site this summer. And those the verification trials are approximately 1 hectare in size at each of those 12 farms. Fennel over the summer of 2019-2020 didn't perform as well as we were hoping. Seed fennel is grown usually over summer. However, because of the real heat that we have up north in summer, the seedling germination and vigour just wasn't there. We did a small amount of trials of that fennel in winter last year just to check germination and to see whether or not there was a possibility. So we're going to carry fennel forward this winter, not in a full-scale verification, but again in a smaller trial phase to look at those lines a little more closely and to see whether or not there is a possibility of taking fennel forward as a commercial crop into the future. We grew Kalonji, Cumin and Kalashiri over winter in 2020. And of the three, Kalonji really stood out as a really well-performing winter crop, particularly in the southern locations. Cumin and Kalashiri had some issues of their own, and I'll talk about those when we get to those slides now. So black sesame, some of you who have been to a webinar with us before will have seen some of these results. We had yields of over 3 tonne per hectare, with 2 lines, line 11 and line 6, performing the best at most sites. So they're the lines that we've brought forward and they're in the ground at the moment. Those crops are coming through to maturity and should be harvested within the next 2 to 4 weeks at most locations. Up in the Northern Territory, there is a later planting date, although it is typically a shorter season crop up there, anywhere between 90 and 100 days usually. So we expect that they will be harvesting sometime in the next month, even though their planting date is usually a month or 2 after ours down in central Queensland. These are the results from the fennel that we planted over summer in 2019-2020. We didn't have fantastic yields at Biloela, but the yields that we were getting at Ayr, Katherine and Rockhampton were actually reasonably good on a standard of, or on the world standard. However, these are hand harvested. And so again, we'd like to verify these a little bit further over this winter before we go into a full-size verification trial to see if they do grow a little better over that winter season, if we can pick up our yields and then look at mechanising some of those processes as well. Kalonji performed really well, obviously, particularly here in Biloela. We had over 3 tonne per hectare of Kalonji. This is a really interesting crop. It typically has well, it had an 80-day duration the further north we went. However, we just didn't get the yield up there that we were hoping for. So in the Northern Territory, it was around an 80-day crop, closer to 120, 140 days as we move into central Queensland. However, the yields were really, really promising in Biloela, and the structure of the plant lends itself to mechanical harvesting really, really well. So the pods don't shatter, and they're all fairly uniform in height, and it looks as though it will go really well through a header. So what we're doing with Kalonji is we are going to take it forward. It will be planted anywhere from mid-May to mid-June in central Queensland areas this winter, again over a larger area, probably around that half a hectare, possibly up to a hectare. And that again will be a mechanically harvested verification trial to see how those yields stand up over winter on a larger scale and using proper farming practices. Cumin was a crop that did really struggle, particularly over that last winter. We ended up having a bit of powdery mildew come up, and there are a few issues with this crop. We had excellent quality cumin come through Catherine. That site produced really lovely aromatic seeds that were really nicely filled. And so from a quality perspective, there could actually be really good promise to grow cumin in the Northern Territory. However, at this stage, because of some of those issues around plant disease, we're looking at just doing a little bit more smaller scale work on it before we push these lines through to a larger scale verification. And similarly with Kalashiri, you can see on some of the sites, we actually had some really good yields, up to 2 tonne per hectare at Ayr. However, we actually had some other kind of issues with this crop in that it produced pappus, which was airborne and was a bit of an irritant. And so what we were hoping to do was to investigate that crop a little bit further once we have some mechanisation nailed down for growing these crops on a larger scale. When we're handling these crops and harvesting by hand and cleaning seed by hand, it's one of those things that actually caused a little bit of irritant for like a hay fever kind of irritant for people. And so we again will not be carrying that one through for verification into this year. However, it's shown that in some areas in the north, it actually has got some really good potential for growing within these regions. So what's next? We're looking at harvesting black sesame, the verification trials. We've got approximately 12 hectares in, a hectare at each of 12 farms across Western Australia, the Northern Territory and Queensland, from Central Queensland right up to the north. We are going to be doing verification trials for Kalonji this winter, and they're about to be planted. They'll go into the ground in about a month or so, just as the weather cools off. We'll be evaluating the winter planting of black sesame and fennel as well. So we would like to actually see whether or not black sesame and fennel are both candidates for growing in either season, and how they might grow on stored soil moisture through the dry season, and whether or not they could be potentially used as break crops from other cropping industries in Northern Australia at either time of the year. So we'll have some smaller scale test crops of black sesame and fennel going in at a couple of locations in northern Queensland and possibly into the Northern Territory over this winter as well. And then we can upscale those if they're successful into a larger verification trial over winter next year as well. And then we have Cumin and Kalashiri, which are going to be not completely benched, but we'll be doing some further exploratory trials on them outside the realms of this project. We've identified that they're probably not good candidates to take forward. As a part of this project now, as we're doing the verification and we're growing these crops on a number of different properties with different soil types and different agronomic practices, things like different irrigation regimes, slightly different climates and soils, we're going to be looking at optimising those agronomic practices for spice production in each of those areas, and particularly for black sesame, for Kalonji and for fennel, if we take that one forward as well. And another thing that we will try to do within this project, but absolutely needs a lot more work moving forward, is optimising that mechanisation. So looking at mechanising the sowing, harvesting, threshing, cleaning and seed grading of each of these spice crops, and spinning them out on a larger scale so that they really can be produced commercially broad acre into Northern Australia. The other thing that we're doing at the moment is testing for insecticide residue in sesame seeds. So that's in collaboration with Eurofins and funded through AgriFutures. We've been doing a little bit of insecticide testing and to look at how that hangs around in different rates on Sesame, and we've integrated that into our verification trial this summer, and so that will help to inform some of those agronomic practices moving forward. So we're doing a bit of work in that mechanisation space now, but certainly there is more work to be done in there to clear up some of those answers around harvest yields over the larger scale. I'd just like to quickly acknowledge again the CRCNA, who have provided major funds into this project and to help us to be able to do this research. Siki Uni and AgriVentus are also funders of this project. Trap Services, BIFMAC, and our producer partners Ian Kennedy and Peter Foxwell. The Northern Territory DIT in Catherine and Darwin have also been major players into making sure that we are getting good quality data, that the crops are growing really well. So we've been really fortunate to be working with all of these people. And at this point, I think we'll pull it up and open the floor to any questions. So thank you for your time and for listening along today. And yeah, we'd be very happy to answer any questions. And if anybody is interested in growing the crops or getting in contact with us, you can see Surya and my contact details just at the bottom of the screen there. We'd love to hear from you. If you're chasing any further information, we've got some of these results in the newsletter and also on the CRCNA webpage, if you'd like to look at any of the more detailed results that we have available there.
Excellent, thanks guys. I'd like to open the floor to any questions. Happy for you to type them in the question box if anyone had any. We haven't had any yet, guys, so.
No problems at all.
Yeah. I do have, hang on a second. Julian's just raised his hand. I'm wondering if he can unmute. Perhaps, Julian, you can unmute yourself if you wanted to raise a question. Are there any spices? Was the question.
Are there any spices?
Yeah, that's
yeah. So the spices that we're looking at in this one, we've tested 5. One, I guess, black sesame is a condiment or oilseed crop as well, but it comes under that group of spices. Yes, we've got a number of lines of those 5 different spices, and we've identified a number of lines that are really actually quite good to carry forward. I guess as opportunities for certainly for verification and hopefully for commercialization as we move into the 3rd year.
Excellent. Okay. Any other questions from anyone? We've got your details on our website, and if anyone's got any burning questions that they want to ask after this webinar, more than welcome to email through to us or direct to Surya or Tieneke. I don't think we've got any other questions, guys. Thank you so much for your presentation today.
Thank you, Kristen. Thank you for your time.
That's all right. Thanks everyone for joining us.
For your valuable time.
Excellent. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks.